For those of you interested in what the LT1 disc brake setup looks like on an older 10-bolt rear, there you go. Bolts up. Very simple. No muss, no fuss. Works great. Now, the reason I'm showing this is because you won't see it again, at least not for this car. Because I've been thinking about this non-stop with the wheel offsets and the tire size and this and that, whatever. Even though this will work with the 255s, I really wanted to get a narrower rear axle and see if I could fit the bigger tires under it and get things more centered, so that in the future, if I want to run a different offset wheel, it's not as big a deal, because these are 4-inch offset wheels, which is fine, but not everything has 4 inches of offset. So if I switch to something later that's 3.5, it might be a problem with the tire rubbing. So, like, I need a hole in the head. I looked on Marketplace, and I made a deal for a 1994 Mustang GT. And according to the sticker on the door, it's a Z code, which is a 308 posi, same gear as this, disc brake rear, and they are supposed to be 58.5 inches wheel mounting to wheel mounting. So that's 3 inches narrower than this. It's actually even a little bit narrower than I wanted, but thinking about it, that was with the 4-inch offset wheels. I wanted a 60, so I could go even with a bigger tire with less offset with the narrower rear. So I think it's going to work out pretty damn good, as long as that measurement is what the rear really is. That's what the internet says it is, and I don't know anything really about Fords. So in the morning, we're going to go take a couple-hour ride plus down into New Jersey and see what we find. So we'll come back then with something different. Alrighty, early in the morning, go drive to pick up the Mustang. Hopefully it's worth the ride and the gas. First time gas has been over $4 since I think it was 2018 for cheap shit, and I found it for $3.99. Not a good thing when you think that's a good thing. $3.99 a gallon. And I'm building a turbo car that needs 93. This should be fun. Anyway, go see what this Mustang is. Well, here's what we've picked up. She's a beauty. A little bit of a little warm. Got a little warm. A little bit of a fire. A little bit of a fire. Anyway, it's a 94 Mustang GT 5-speed, and look, the rear axle has a chrome cover on it, and it's all painted. What does that mean? Maybe it's not what it's supposed to be. It's supposed to be a 308 posi. Now, Mustangs are modified a lot. Maybe somebody changed gears. I may not be able to use this rear axle, at least not on this current build, unless I put a 4L80 in it. If somebody stepped up the gears, I don't know. I guess we'll figure it out when I get it home and do the old spin test on it. But ain't she a peach? I love Mustangs. Well, remember how I said got the chrome cover and this may not be what it was supposed to be? Well, I don't even know what the gear ratio is yet, but in no way is this thing 58.5 inches wide, mounting surface to mounting surface. It's actually 61.25. It's exactly the same as my second Gen F body rear. I don't even know how that's possible. I didn't think you could put a later model. I mean, I'm very confused on Ford. I don't know Ford. I had read Fox body and up to 1994, I think it was. Maybe it was up to 1998. Yeah, 98 I think it was. Use 59.5 inch wide axles, rear, wheel mounting surface. Then 99 to 04 was like 3/4 of an inch wider on each side. which would get you to another 1.5 inches, which would get you close to 60. And that was supposedly for tone rings. And I don't know if I can get here in the dark, but this axle has tone rings on it. I don't know if the earlier ones had tone rings or just the 99 up ones did. And then there's even later models axles after, I think it was after 04, maybe 05 up, that were even a little bit wider. So anyway, no rush to take this car apart now. So back to the original plan. Put the second gen F body rear in the car with the 255s and the 4-inch backspace wheels that I have, and I'm just going to build the car. Okay, welcome back to how to do a rear axle decision in 5,000 easy steps. A little bit frustrating. Anyway, so we're done with that piece of junk for now. So I have the 8.5 at a Trans Am mocked up under here. This is how I do it. You can do it your way. Everybody does it different way. I do it by eye. So I've got the thing up in there. Get around this side. I've got the axle up in there where I like it. I have the car set at ride height. And I'm not going to move the car again. I'm going to leave the car at that height. Actually, it's on the latches on the lift. I'm going to leave it there. And yeah, so the wheel's centered. Axle is centered side to side. Next thing I'm going to do is take the wheels off, and I'm going to weld the axle to the car. I'll make sure it's even up and down and all that first, but I'm going to weld it right to the car, and then I'm going to start on the suspension links with everything at ride height. So I have the, I don't know if I mentioned that, obviously yes, I'm not going to change the height of the car again, but I set the rear axle up so it's at ride height. So all my suspension pieces, especially the panhard bar, that has to be done at ride height because that swings on an arc. So it'll actually move the axle left and right. So you want it to be set up at ride height, and you want the panhard bar to be as level as possible at ride height. And then it'll do its job, and it won't be moving it too much as soon as the suspension moves. The longer the panhard bar is, the better, the less leverage it'll have as far as moving the rear, and it'll just do its job to locate the rear. All right, so I'm going to pull these wheels and get the axle welded. Okay, well, rear axle is welded to the car with some scrap pieces of fence post. Perfect. That's what I had. That's what got used. So, don't care about pinion angle, even though I have it probably close. Not going to worry about that till after the motor and tranny are in. But it's in as far as ride height, it is set, and side to side it is set. So next will be the lower links for the truck arm suspension. So the arms will come from rear axle, obviously, and they'll meet up here in the middle of the X-frame. I'm going to try something different this time. The last one I did like this, I actually welded the mounts right to the car and made the whole thing integral to hold the truck arms. I'm going to try to make a removable piece, which has been done before. I'm not the first. I saw pictures of it online where somebody did this. They made a bolt-in section to hold in the truck arms. The reason I'm going to try that is because, again, the plans on this car is not to do a frame-off build, and I can't get to the very top to do a lot of the welding, so easier to make a bolt-in piece and then weld that together on the floor and then just put it in and bolt it up into the car. So I got to clean all this undercoating off of the inner frame rails here, the X, get rid of this brake hose, clean that up, and then start mocking this thing up. Okay, so it is the next day, and after sleeping on it a little bit, I decided I'm going to change my front truck arm mount design again. All right, but before I get into that, here's what we're working with. A couple truck arms off of a 60 to 72 C10 pickup, I think 3/4 tons. Some of them may have used it as well, but basically 1960 to 1972 C10 pickup, you can still buy these arms new. I bought new axle perches. Don't have to buy them new, but for $25 it was worth it to not have to chop them off the rear axle and try to make them work. Although I've done that before too. So we'll start mocking this thing up here, and I think you'll see why this is a popular upgrade for the Buicks, getting rid of the torque tube, because it's really a pretty simple suspension setup. And you can do it even simpler than the front mount I'm going to make, although I don't think it's going to be that difficult. We're going to give it a shot. So originally, see if I can get a light on this thing, I was going to make a bolt-in piece to fit in between the X there to mount the arms. And I don't know, I just didn't think the bolt-in thing was a good idea for something with this much power. Again, a concession to the big horsepower. There's a lot of things I'm doing on this build that would be a lot simpler if I wasn't putting a turbo in it, but I have to do it, so we're going to try it out. So the idea now is to put a cross member in 2x4 box tubing straight across the frame, notch the X for it to fit up inside, and then have the mounts for the truck arms bolt or welded to that. And what I've got here is a piece of heavy wall. It's like 3/16 wall, 2x4 square tube that I already had laying around because I'm a hoarder. If you don't have it, any scrap place should have some laying around, or steel supply, get a cut off or something. And I cut the mounts off of the trailer that were originally for the truck arm. I don't know how I'm going to use them, or if I'm going to use them. I may just trim them down. I have to see how the cross member fits in there and how I want it to work. So that's going to be the front mount. And there's really not a whole lot else to fabricate as far as this truck arm setup. It's just two big arms from the axle up to that mount, coil springs, and convert it to tube shocks. So it's pretty simple. 4-link might be a little bit more work. I don't know. There's kits out there for not much money as well, and you can just do a 4-link. The only thing with a 4-link that would be any kind of fabrication, and why I didn't do it right off the get-go, is you'd probably have to cut the bottom of the floor out here in the back to get a cross member welded in across the top. And because I'm not doing a frame off on this car, I can't get to the top, I don't think, to weld it. So I may do a 4-link on the next one just to try it out. I've been trying all kind of different things on these cars and learning different stuff. It's all new, so you do what you do. But said I've never done this before with the front cross member mount like this, but I'm going to try it. And if I like it, I'll do it on the next car. That's how it works. You try something out and try 3 or 4 different things, and whichever turns out to be the best, or what you like the most, you just keep doing that over and over again. So all right, so first thing I'm gonna do is mock up these arms. All right, so pretty simple setup. Just got a couple stands up there to hold the arms up front because I don't have another person to do it. U-bolt, probably gonna buy new ones of those, but that's the U-bolt from the original setup. I'm probably gonna buy new ones. So, first thing I'm going to do, the U-bolt. Axle saddle, put it on the right way, or get the right one. 50-50 shot. It's going to go like that. Grab an arm. They're the same for both sides. Set it on the stand. These are lower shock mounts from the truck. I don't know if I'm going to be using them, but they just work as spacers. Get a nut on there. And I did run a tap through the nuts and a die over these U-bolts because they're originals and they're kind of crusty. Now they work nice. 3/4 inch fine thread if you're going to do it yourself. And I'm just going to snug this up. That'd be nice. Put it the right way. Let's do it. I'm not even going to really tighten this up yet. Get it so it'll still be able to move. And I know I'm going to have this on the outside of where the leaf spring mounts. So, like this guy here, this is the leaf spring. I keep saying that. Coil spring mount that I took off the original axle. That's going to mount right to the axle tube, and then the U-bolt's going to be on the outside of it. So, I'm going to be getting this location. Next thing I'm just going to do the same thing on the other one. That. That. Hopefully this is showing up on video because probably isn't. I don't know. I don't know. I don't have a camera person. I gotta have it on a tripod or wherever else I got laying around. Alright, so let's see. Is that even facing over there where you can see it? I guess so. Okay. So I'm going to do the same thing with this one. I'm going to set it up 4 1/4 over here. It's going to move when I tighten it up, so let me just see where it ends up. Let's just 4 1/4. All right. So that's like 4 1/4. I should measure probably in a different way to make sure. Half off that. 1/2 off that. Okay. So that is good. Okay, so anyway, here's where we are. This is what it all looks like, bolted together. That guy out of the way. It's just the spring mount I was playing with for clearances to check it out. So it's just a U-bolt, spring mount, arm, this shock mount that I'm probably not going to use, but I may extend off of it to make the shock mounts. And what I was doing before is my coil spring's got to sit here, and I just wanted to make sure that wherever I put my spring pad for the coil wasn't going to interfere with the U-bolt. The other thing is when the coil sits on here, you have to make sure it doesn't hit the U-bolt either, but on the last one I did, it wasn't an issue, and you could always raise up the mount if you had to get more clearance. But should be just fine right there. And all I did was for a measurement is just measured my arms over to my my caliper mounting bracket to make it even. And that's really simple, but I'm not going to weld anything yet. The axle can still rotate in the saddle. That's so I can set my pinion angle later, and then once the pinion angle is set, I can deal with putting the panhard bar on, because that has to be on with the axle set where it's going to be at ride height, which it is, but also at the right pinion angle, so I don't have to twist anything. And then up front, I said all I did was raise up the truck arms to be same as the bottom of the cross member. In fact, I can come down a little bit, but we'll figure that out and make it right, make it perfect. And then I'm going to have to make some notches. Now what I already did was I took a quick look and I made some marks on the frame where the cross member is going to come through. So the 2x4 cross member is going to span the whole frame, come through here. I'm going to have to notch my my X member here, and I'm also going to have to notch it probably all the way back to where the bushing areas are, because the tabs that mount these are going to end up being in this space. So there's going to need to be more room for that. So I'll have to notch that out. And also that'll give room to put the cross member in, because it has to be able to get up inside the outer frame rails. And unless you make it really short, you're not going to be able to get it up in there. So I'm going to trim the X member a little bit more just to get some more room in there. And in the end, weld it all back together and weld it to the cross member, because it'll be a permanent piece. It's not going to come out. And that'll put the structure back in as well. These X members are here. They're pretty thin metal. They work obviously to keep the frame from, I guess moving in a parallel motion, but most C-channel frames don't need it. So I think it's just to make things really stiff. So I don't think it'll miss getting some sections cut out and then weld it back in anyway. So it'll probably be stronger than it was. And then you can see here, this is where the tailpipe would have to come through, and this is at ride height, so you're limited on space here for a tailpipe, because this arm's going to come up as the suspension travels. So I'm probably going to have to cut this and raise it up as high as I can to get maximum room for a tailpipe. We're only running a single because it's a turbo, but I don't want a side exit exhaust if I can avoid it. I'll probably have a cutout up front with an electric cutout, so if I want to run max horsepower, I can just open the cutout and make a lot of noise and make the power. But for just driving around, full exhaust system is probably the way to go. All right, so next thing, I'm going to take these arms back out. I'm just going to mark the cross member in another spot back here where the bushings end up, so I know how far I'm going to have to trim, and then I'm going to trim out this for the 2x4 cross member to get in here. All right, so we'll come back after I get some lines drawn. So based on a 2x4 chunk of steel, get this truck arm. Made some marks on the frame here. I'm going to cut out this section here is actually where the cross member is going to be, and I gave myself another section I'm going to cut out so that I can actually have enough room to angle the cross member and get it in. And then I'll check my clearances for the arm and weld back in whatever section here I need to fill it back in once it's done. So I'm going to chop this out on both sides and see what happens. It is what it is. It's only metal. I can put it back. It's not like the whole thing's going to come apart. But here we go. That should be it. Going to set this, because I loosened up the arm, I'm going to bolt this back up tight at the same measurement I had before. So with that there and this here, you get an idea of what we're looking at for mounts here. So let's see, show you what we got. For those of you doing this stuff. All right, so got the beast of a piece of steel in here. Fits up nice into the cross member there. I'll get a good weld on it. You can see the gaps are all very nice. It'll burn in nicely. I'll weld that right into the frame and to the cross. But now the next step is attach this to this. So how do we do that? I don't know. I have to make something. So I have these. These were the original mounts from these arms, and I might be able to make them actually tie in to the to that bracket Ah, see? This is why we measure things. This is why we check things. That's too far over. I gotta slide the axle over. It's actually hitting the cross member there. Can you see that? Oh yeah, now you can. Now that's a little better. Okay. Anyway, the bushing here is into the frame. That's not gonna work. So that means I have to slide this axle, loosen the U-bolt, slide this axle over a little bit more, get a little more clearance. So let me get that done. Okay, so with the cross member knocked into place, I'm going to make one adjustment here. I'm going to add a little extra cut on the top here, which is what I had drawn originally. I didn't take it out because I didn't know if I was really going to need it, but I am, because the way this arm is looking from the other side, I'm going to need a little more clearance to get to the bolt. I ended up opening this up like that so that this can go up in here, and actually the tab off of the cross member can actually go through the opening where the where that X member was, so that's going to work out really nice. And once that's in, I should be able to fill in under here and kind of make this all one piece again. So this is not going to stay this small. It'll end up getting filled in once the bracket's in, and I can weld this all together. So I just copied this onto cardboard, made a template, drew the same lines over here, so I'll cut that out. And I think I'm going to have to weld the tabs on this for the arms with it in place. So I'm going to take this cross member back out, clean up all the areas where I have to weld it in, and I think I'll just weld it right into the car as it is, get the arms where they need to be, and then just weld the tabs right to the cross member and right here, and just do it all in place. It's never coming out, so, or if it does, it's not because for maintenance, it's because somebody wanted to put something else in. But I think I'm just going to weld that all together and tie it all in. Cross member's cleaned up. All the areas where things have to weld have been cleaned down to bare metal. Only additional thing I did, I cut and welded a little bit of a recess into the cross member, just for drive shaft clearance in case I need it. I don't think it's going to be needed, but it's there in case I need it. So that'll be fine. And time to weld it in and go from there. Cross member is burned in. That is never going to move unless somebody really wants it out of there, and that's going to be a lot of cutting to get all the freaking welds out. So it's in, and it's dark out now, so I've had enough. One thing I checked over here, I was going to make a notch in this for the exhaust, but I verified a 3-inch pipe will get through there, so that's the most I'm going to run. I'm not running a 4. I don't know if it's a 4-inch outlet on my turbo, but 4-inch pipes would never get through in here anyway, so 3 will be it, and then I'll probably even have to neck down to a 2.5 for the tailpipe to get through here. I don't know if I can get a 3 through that. I seriously doubt it. Anyway, I've had enough, and that's where I have to end this video for now. Got to go back to work, so we'll just let this sit until next day off, and we'll start making the tabs for the truck arm front mount. And after that, it should move pretty good. Spring mounts, put springs on it, see what it looks like. Panhard bar and final welding is not going to get done until after the engine and transmission are in and set, so pretty soon it'll be engine and transmission time, and that's going to be interesting as well. All right, that's it for now. Till next time.